Hello traders, this is Ankit from Mavic Currencies, and this is a quick preview for the US jobs report that's due tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A lot of movement in the market, so let's take a look at the context of where the dollar is and how can we trade the dollar with the employment report due tomorrow. So looking at the unemployment rate, we are sitting at an all-time lows at about 3.6. And the expectation tomorrow is about 3.5. So we are actually looking at much better than expected numbers. Looking at the non-farm payrolls figures, so far you can see that we've been quite positive this year. We had a big beat back in February. So this number coming out tomorrow, the expectation is about 380,000. So far we are still looking positive numbers. And the big question is, how is this going to impact the US dollar? And as you can see with the US dollar, we are sitting at a much different and a higher level as we were in the past previous reports. We have seen more stronger price action off the strong reports, and where we are right now, this is where we have to kind of dive into a lot of the other areas to take a look at how much more upside can we expect in the dollar, or is the dollar set to make a reverse? So to understand where the dollar is, the first thing we need to take a look at is the DXY. So we usually look at the equal weighted basket, and we are already seeing quite a extension there. But to get another context, the DXY, most traded commonly, the ETF to watch when it comes to the US dollar. And if we zoom out to the US dollar, we can see that we are actually going back to the levels that we saw back in 2016. And even going further back, this is where things get interesting. We have to actually go on a weekly chart just to get a context of where we are. And as you can see, we have tested this level 2 times before, and both times we did get a reversal. If we do break this level, there's definitely more upside potential in the dollar. The question is the probability for something like that happen tomorrow, or getting a catalyst from the jobs report tomorrow. So we are looking at this whole dollar movement. Let's actually take a look at the equal weighted basket for the dollar, and we probably will see the exact same thing. We are now sitting at these levels. We actually got a nice little pullback yesterday, and then here we are. We are actually back to the highs that we've seen. So the question is, this is just a bull pullback, and should we expect further gains in the dollar? And at this point, everything is pointing out to that direction. So could the employment report tomorrow can derail that, or could this really provide a catalyst? So I think this is where we have to take a look at the probabilities and take a look at the risk to reward on the trades that we can expect tomorrow. So as a trader, every time you're looking for a news event, we should be preparing for both case scenarios. What if the dollar is really strong? What if the dollar is really weak? And pick those pairs accordingly that will support that narrative. So right now, taking a look at dollar, I'm actually going to talk about certain pairs that actually look really decent here. So if we go for dollar strength, I think the dollar yen is at a very interesting pattern here, and this pattern actually looks very similar to what we saw back here and what we saw back here. We've seen a bit of a pullback, which is like a bull pullback, a bit messy, but it actually had a nice little breakout, as you can see right here. This could easily do that. Again, I think the dollar yen has more upside potential. The next level resistance, again zooming out to the chart, was about 134. This was the level that we saw that was hit back in 2002, and I know that was a long time ago. But just realize that where we are right now, we actually haven't been this high in dollar yen, actually going back to the same era. So there's that little ceiling that we need to hit before we actually make a bit of a reversing price action. So dollar yen, it's a buy if this price action continues to the upside. Dollar CAD is another pair that actually sitting at a very interesting level, and as you can see, we have seen this level tested many times last year. So 130 is a very strong resistance, and if we can break above the resistance, there's definitely more upside potential. Now, there's still a bit of a room for this to test that high. We're sitting at about 128.36, but this is the level that we need to pay attention to. And upon breaking that level, there could be further upside as well. So dollar CAD is another one that is something we're paying attention to. Outside of that, the euro dollar is the one that has been on this very directional move to the downside. And if you take a look at the dollar yen on a daily chart, we are still making, we're below the 20, the 50-day moving average. We're making a bit of a low base. Can we see a break further tomorrow? And this is where this is in a consolidation phase, but upon breaking this support, we can definitely get behind that. So if the dollar do break, and again, dollar on an equal weighted basket, there is further potential for dollar pairs to work. We have seen quite a movement in Aussie dollar. You can see this thing is moving along with the markets, and we haven't really seen these big percentage moves, especially back to back. We have seen about a 2.5% move yesterday, and then the exact same move today. If this breaks this previous low at about 70.40, this has a further downside risk as well. And again, this is where daily charts won't do us much of a help, because we have to really go back in time. So let's take a look at the weekly chart. You can see that pretty clearly here, that on a weekly chart, there's a very important level of support at about 70. Just like how we look at the support on dollar CAD, Aussie dollar is sitting at a nice support as well. So further break up that support actually exposes us for much further downside. So this is where we have to pay attention to those levels. And if we're trading the U.S. employment report tomorrow, our targets needs to be limited to those levels, because we need to get a confirmation to break those levels before we can get behind very aggressively. So just keep in mind as we calculate our risk to reward ratio. Kiwi dollar is actually the one that's making a new lows. So Kiwi dollar is the one that we've identified actually is in a downtrend, making lower lows. So this is the one that on a daily chart we can find that this is right back at the support. So this breaking below at about 63.90 or 63.80 actually seems like a decent short. So we actually have a lot more good candidates to actually go for long dollar, and there's a lot of currencies actually look pretty weak against it. So the question is that if the dollar is weak, what do we pick up against it? Actually, let's just take a look at pound dollar as well, because pound dollar had a big move, and you can see that along with the Kiwi dollar, pound dollar is also moving on further lower as well. So question is, if this is going to create a short-term reversals, what can we pick for a dollar weakness? And this is where we probably have a hard time finding something on a longer-term basis, because things are looking a lot directional, sitting at some levels that you don't want to short. But in a shorter-term trade, if we have to take a look at it, we can actually go with the currency that's actually showing a bit more relative strength. And this is where we go back to our currency baskets and then take a look at what other currencies actually showing some decent strength. So looking at some daily chart, there's not a whole lot of currencies that we'll find actually doing a bit decent here. So the only thing that looks decent is the euro, which has been consolidating. As you can see, after a big fall, this thing has been trading this range. So can this break out of that range? Then we can potentially take a look at euro dollar. But outside of that, the Canadian dollar has been pretty strong. So this is where the dollar CAD could actually make a decent currency pair to take a look at on a short-term basis. Like we can see on a 4-hour chart, we are right at the resistance, and right around these resistance points, we either see a breakout or we either see a reversal. So those two setups that we're looking for, the potential or the probability is much higher for dollar to stay strong. It also comes down to the markets as well, because as the market stays under pressure, this is going to give the dollar a lot more boost, especially in current times when yen is not really performing as a safe haven currency. So at the end, dollar is acting as a safe haven currency. Now, looking at the equity markets, we had a pretty big move today, and something to kind of note here is that we have still we still have to break the support level here on the S&P. And as we saw that move yesterday, we got a nice big reversal today. So a further break tomorrow could actually intensify some of the moves as well. But again, for that, we need to break those lows. So until then, waiting for confirmation is a smart thing to do, because volatility is high. If you take a look at the VIX, volatility is actually hitting the highs that we saw back in February. So around these times, you don't want to be standing in front of a moving train. And the dollar could potentially be that moving train that we want to stay away from, especially if you're trying to look for a short trade there. Once the combination of the market environment and everything settles down, that will make a much better environment for the dollar to take a look at short. But so far, seems like tomorrow, we have definitely are leaning more towards on the bullish side on the dollar. And for that, I think there's decent pairs that to take a look at, including Kiwi dollar and the pound dollar. And we'll be covering that live in the session tomorrow. So make sure you go and register for it. And once the news is out, we'll probably be able to capture some moves off of that. Till then, take care. Happy trading.